Good morning, folks. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson here in the TV9 newsroom with an update on the potential for some strong to severe storms later on Tuesday evening. Storms will be developing to our west and moving east during that time frame, and the chance for some severe weather has increased a little bit, at least since this time yesterday. The trends have been for the potential for some of those storms to be a little bit on the stronger side. So let's dive into it. The setup today features an area of low pressure that's in right near the border of South Dakota and Nebraska as we head toward lunchtime today. Extending to the east of it is a warm front, and that is providing much warmer air moving into the region, as well as the access to a little bit of moisture in parts of the region too. Now, the cold front trails behind it, and that front will be the focus of shower and storm development as we head toward this evening. Now, let's look at what we have out there right now. Already seeing some showers and storms in eastern Nebraska. They're actually pretty widespread compared to some mornings when we have this warmer air moving in. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings have been issued by National Weather Service offices out there. These will try to track to the east here into eastern Iowa. I think we'll have a little bit of difficulty doing so. And so we're expecting the chance for rain to really hold off until later in the day, but we'll be keeping an eye on these too. They would arrive in early afternoon if they make it this far. Otherwise, the Storm Prediction Center has a risk for severe weather across especially the western half of the TV9 viewing area. This includes the areas here highlighted in yellow. The areas in orange are a somewhat higher risk for more reports of large hail in particular. The main threats today are large hail and damaging winds. The isolated tornado threat a little bit higher the farther west you go. So that is what we have here today. Now, this risk was just in western Iowa and eastern Nebraska yesterday, but due to the timing of the system and where the storms are expected to develop, this has been moved a little bit to the east. Pinpoint Futurecast starting us off this morning very quiet. Let's get us up to current time where things are sunny. Temperatures are warming up quickly after a cool start. Dry air that we have in place does heat up pretty fast, and so we are seeing that so far across the area. As we head toward lunchtime, there's those showers out in western Iowa that have been trying to move in from eastern Nebraska. But Pinpoint Futurecast doesn't see a lot of future for them here east of I-35. Could there be a few that make it? Yes, that is certainly a possibility. We do want you to be have your heads aware of that possibility, but likely to be very light if they do take place. Now, as we go into the evening, after about 3 or 4 o'clock, storms will develop in western Iowa and start to press on to the east. So by 6 o'clock, starting to push into the far western fringe of the TV9 viewing area over toward Interstate 35, Hardin and Franklin counties, and points to the east from there. So that 6 to 7 o'clock time frame is where those storms will be entering the west. Between about 8 and 10 is when they move into the central portion of the viewing area, affecting areas like Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and Washington. And then between 10 and midnight is when Dubuque and areas along the Mississippi could start to get involved. Now, this is a one and done sort of situation. Once the storms go through, they're going to be gone, and we're going to see some drier weather move in behind them, and we'll likely start Wednesday off without much precipitation and only just some scattered clouds. So the threats today faced by these storms, this is the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center, just came down about 10 minutes ago. They did not change their outlook here based on the latest information. High wind is certainly out there as a possibility. 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts could take place with storms that move through, especially if they organize into a line. We're going to have to watch that progression as we go through the evening. Large hail also a possibility, especially if storms stay less linear and more individual. If you have those individual cells that you can pick out, they may have a chance of producing some hail. We've already seen that as the threat with those showers and storms developing in eastern Nebraska this morning. So that kind of lends the confidence that the atmosphere at least has the potential to do that. Tornado risk today relatively low. It's not going to be a repeat of last Friday in western Iowa, it looks like at this point. The turning of the winds in the atmosphere just not as intense as that day to produce those types of tornadoes, but we can't rule an isolated one out, especially early on as those storms are more individual than linear, and that is a possibility. Now, these storms could produce some heavy rain, but they'll be moving fast enough that it looks like the threat for any flash flooding is fairly low. But areas that see the storms could get a quick quarter to half inch of rain, certainly, as they move through. Now, severe weather ingredients are all present today. We do have wind shear, so that's the change of wind direction and speed with height that is present or will be moving in as we head through the day. Lift is something that forces the air to go up and form into clouds and showers and storms. We've got that today too. That area of low pressure and its cold front will serve to help with that. Instability is there, but that one's a little bit of an asterisk, and we'll get into that in just a second. Moisture also a little bit of an asterisk. We don't have a lot of moisture. moving in, but likely just enough that we will have the chance for storms to develop. So let's talk about that instability factor. Here's where we'll be at noon today. The brighter colors, reds, oranges, yellows, or even those colors approaching white, represent a high amount of instability, high amount of energy for storms to feed off of, but likely not much in the way of storm activity actually ongoing during that time. So let's step forward just a couple hours here. By the time we get toward 2 or 3 o'clock, that's when we'll be at peak heating in terms of how much we'll maximize this energy. Notice those bright colors again out in the plains and extending into southeast Nebraska and western Iowa. Here in eastern Iowa, we'll start to see that energy build up a little bit, but we never get to those same bright colors that you see here in the plains in the western portion of the state. That will limit the ability for these storms to make it to the east. It's this feed that they're currently getting from that area of higher instability during the early evening hours, promoting those storms to stay strong. But notice what happens as we go forward in time, just a few more hours, take off those dotted lines there. We start to lose some of those yellows and oranges to our south, and so that feed gets cut off a little bit. Stronger storms may start to refocus down that way. Here in eastern Iowa, we'll be left with scattered activity and storms passing through. So the change there is just the energy may not be there for the storms when they get here. They may outpace that better source of ingredients for severe weather. That could be our saving grace here. But the trend in the last 24 hours has been to at least have the opportunity. The storms, as of about 24 hours ago, in terms of the information we knew then, based on computer modeling we used to help make our forecasts, as well as trends in the atmosphere, would have indicated some development of storms in, let's say, central eastern Nebraska. Now it's looking more like the far eastern portion of Nebraska and western Iowa, closer to the Missouri River. So that shift, that small shift, is enough to push that risk here into eastern Iowa, at least in terms of it being a slight risk. We're not talking about a severe weather outbreak here, but there could be some reports of large hail and damaging wind, certainly as a possibility as we go through the evening hours. Let's take a look at timing again. That's, of course, the biggest question for folks. A lot of evening activities starting to get underway. There's sports practices, sports events, and games, other things that you may be headed out to do this evening. These are the time frames you should really start to pay attention. We're talking the area from our western fringe of the viewing area between about 6 and 8 o'clock, 8 to 10 o'clock for the area just to the east of that, stretching over toward Decorah, Fayette, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and points to the south. And then we're watching a closer 10 to midnight over toward the Mississippi River communities, includes Prairie du Chien, Dubuque, and Maquoketa. But remember, activity likely diminishing as we go through that time frame. So that's the good news there, is that we're probably going to be facing less in the way of severe weather activity, escaping that area within the slight risk, as we described earlier. Now, that's not the last chance of showers and storms we have this week. There are at least a handful of chances going forward. We're expecting things to generally stay fairly active. The first arrives again by Wednesday night into Thursday. In fact, this activity looks pretty widespread. Showers and storms could be heavy at times in terms of the rainfall they produce, as well as bouts of frequent lightning. A few stronger storms possible on Thursday, but the risk for widespread severe weather looks a little bit lower, thanks to the nature of those storms early in the day. Won't allow the atmosphere to necessarily recharge again as we head toward the afternoon, which would limit that severe weather risk. Now, we do have additional chances after that. After a break on Friday, Saturday presents another chance for some showers and maybe a few storms. Looks like we'll be generally on the certainly lighter side on Saturday and not as widespread either. So we are doing that weather discussion today. If we do have additional severe weather updates, we will bring you more here on KCRG TV9 live stream and YouTube as well. If you find yourself in a warning later today, make sure to just sort of seek shelter. That's the best advice we've got for you. Go to your safe place as soon as you can. Lowest level of your home, interior room. Strong wind and hail obviously can do some damage to windows, so get away from those in particular. If there is a tornado warning for your area in particular, then cover your head and neck with blankets and pillows or whatever you can to help keep those parts of your body, those very important parts, safe. And stay there till the threat is passed. Get updates from KCRG TV9, as well as your NOAA weather radio and your First Alert weather app. Now, if you're outside this evening, if you're at a sports event or whatever else you may be doing, make sure to get inside. That's your best bet. If you're at all able to get to a substantial structure, that's what you should be doing. Don't park under overpasses to seek shelter from hail or tornadoes. It's not a safe thing to do because either causes traffic backups and leaves people in danger, and it's just not a safe shelter, especially from tornadoes. It actually kind of can make things worse for you if you get there. So if you are in a tornadic storm, make sure to get out of your vehicle, lie flat in a ditch, as flat as you can, get as low as you can, protect your head and neck again. Now, obviously, if it's a hail and windstorm, your best bet again is to get inside. If you can get your vehicle into some sort of covered parking, that would be ideal too. Maybe not a bad idea to park in the garage tonight versus the driveway. Now, it's always a good idea to have multiple ways to get reliable weather information. That means things like NOAA Weather Radio, the KCRG TV9 First Alert Weather app. Don't rely on the sirens if you're indoors. Obviously, if you're outdoors, they are useful. And that would be a good way to give you that first heads up. Of course, will be giving you the first alert on the First Alert Weather app right as warnings come out. You can also go to kcrg.com for updates throughout the day. Weather Call, that's another option. It's a service that you can sign up for that will give you personalized notifications in the form of a text or a phone call that will give you a little bit of extra nudge to react to that warning. And then, of course, if we do come to live streaming during severe weather, we do it on all of our platforms. Now, in terms of the threat, today, not an overwhelming and extreme threat by any means, but it certainly is a possibility. This time of year, it's been pretty active so far this season, and so we just really want you to stay weather aware as we head toward the evening hours in particular. And let's recap for folks just joining us in terms of when that chance will be at its highest. In fact, we'll just give a recap of the severe weather threat in general too. Storm Prediction Center's latest update came out about 20 minutes ago at this stage. It still includes much of the area in a slight risk, an enhanced risk in the orange to the central and western portions of the state. So if you're traveling out west toward Des Moines or Omaha, Kansas City included in this as well, their risk is a little bit higher in terms of seeing a somewhat surer bet of some of those storms being severe. Large hail, damaging wind, and an isolated tornado, the main threats here. Pinpoint Futurecast takes us through a quiet day to start, but then storms develop. Those storms in eastern Nebraska that we have right now will be trying to move in during the early afternoon hours, likely struggling to do so. But after about 6 or 7 o'clock, storms that develop in western Iowa in the mid-afternoon will start to move into eastern Iowa, likely having a pretty good shot at being severe as they do. Large hail and damaging wind, again, the main threats as they push into our counties. But the farther they push into eastern Iowa, the less likely they are to be severe. So by the middle of the morning, or middle of the evening rather, we should be seeing things a little bit less intense. And then by late in the morning, even less intense than that, and likely, late in the evening. Got my time schedule backed up here. We have that chance for storms to, in fact, diminish, if not fully move out of the area by about midnight. So what we want you to do is just, of course, stay weather aware through the day. Don't be scared. These storms are certainly more of the what you would expect for this time of year, not an extreme outbreak, as we said, but certainly a possibility that you could see some large hail or damaging winds as we go toward this evening. We'll be keeping you updated on KCRG TV9, kcrg.com, KCRG TV9 First Alert Weather app, all those platforms that we normally do, and we just want you to stay safe as we head into the evening. Thanks for joining me this morning. Hope that was helpful for folks to be able to have a better picture of what exactly is going on, why things have changed too. Thanks.